Welcome to Nifty 50 Photographers. Today's video, I'm going to share with you a recent trip I made to Iceland to do a photo and bike tour. So I rode around Iceland on a motorbike and had the opportunity as well to take some great photos. So if it's a place that's always been on your bucket list like mine, then watch on. I'll show you some of the great sights you can expect to see. The first thing you're going to see as you come into Iceland is this view of the plain of Keflavik. And actually we came in at early-ish in the morning, 8:30, and the light was actually very beautiful over Iceland, and that's one thing I noticed throughout my entire trip. Now our first day was spent in Reykjavik. Now Reykjavik has some wonderful art installations, and here are just a few of the sculptures. This one by the sea, another one outside this concert hall called Harper. This concert hall was an amazing building. It was built from hexagons of glass, and I see you can put this in colour and in black and white, and inside you could see the build-up of all these hexagons creating some amazing light. It was really an architectural photographer's dream, and as you can see I took several angles, including one lying on my back and looking up at the ceiling. Now out in the city you will also find lots of painted buildings, some art on the pavements, also on the streets in the pedestrian areas, and lots of street art, so some great times for street photography, some brightly coloured buildings. We also walked up to a place called Perlan, an old water tower which gives a magnificent view of the city and the famous cathedral of Iceland in Reykjavik there with this magnificent organ. And we were riding around on bikes. These are the bikes we chose, and this is roughly the route we would follow right around the island. This first video, I'm just going to share with you the trip from Reykjavik around what is known as the Golden Circle. Now this is a national park which features some waterfalls, some hot springs, and some fabulous scenery of lakes and mountains. As you can see here, roads around Iceland, this is the main ring road, are pretty quiet, and we were lucky to have some really great weather. And as you can see, lots of nice sweeping curves. The scenery of this national park was a little bit, reminded me perhaps of the Highlands of Scotland, or perhaps some lower areas of the Rocky Mountains. Get some nice lakes, some nice greenery, and also a little bit of snow caps on some of the mountains. But one of the first places we stopped was at what is known as Geysir, because it has a geyser, and every 5 or so minutes it explodes this massive plume of water. Now I wasn't able to video that, but I did get 1 or 2 photos. And you can see all the hot pools of water in the area, this geothermal activity. 80 to 100 degrees C, so you have to stand back a little bit from these things. Our next stop was at the Gulfoss Waterfall. As you can see, a very impressive piece of water. I took the opportunity also to grab a long exposure photo. I lugged a tripod with me, and it was well worth the effort. Carried on riding through the Golden Circle, and one of the things we noticed in many areas was these patches of lupins by the roadside, creating magnificent colours. As well as waterfalls, you also get to see things like a crater and magnificent roads running just through the countryside. They were so quiet and peaceful, it was easy to take some amazing shots of them. And I should say, if you're planning this trip, so a couple of pointers, if you're riding a bike especially. Alright, first thing, weather. We saw amazing weather conditions. It went from snowing and 2 degrees through rain, fog, mist, and even 21 degree sunshine, all on the same day. The other thing I would watch out for is roadworks. Although they're signposted, then the actual roadwork itself might not be, so you could hit a sign and then it might be a mile or 2 before you actually hit the roadworks, and suddenly you've gone from a nice tarmac surface to a big patch of gravel without any warning whatsoever. So do be vigilant and keep your eyes peeled. The other thing I should mention is one of the days we had a horrendous crosswind, about 40 knots. So we're leaning our bikes into the wind all the time, but every time traffic comes the other way, it shelters you from the wind, and you have an anxious moment where you level up and then have to lean again. It's particularly scary when you're crossing some of their bridges. They're just steel decks on some of the bridges, so you don't feel you have a great deal of grip. If a bus comes the other way at the same time when you're leaning at 20 degrees into a crosswind, makes for a very twitchy bum situation. But all in all, I would say it is a really interesting place to ride a motorbike, and there are lots of off-road tracks you can explore as well. So if you want to know what gear to take with you for a photography point of view, you need to watch my video on what gear to take when you're traveling. And I'll look forward to seeing you next time, where I'll share with you some more about my trip round Iceland.